It's showtime in the Six Nations once again. Old rivalries, but a lot of new faces. And tonight, the good, the bad, and the rugby, in partnership with our very good friends at Continental Tires, is live in the West End. Where else? As we try to answer a number of the questions that stand before us as rugby's greatest championship returns to its start line once again. Let's get going.
Could you welcome to the stage the whitest, poshest, most loaded man in West London? It's Alex Payne!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And confirmation, if you need it, that James Haskell is, and always will be, a massive Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How are you all? How good is this? Good evening, everybody. You are very welcome. It is good to have you all with us tonight. This is really special for us. This is our first live Good Bad Rugby in partnership with our very good friends at Continental Tires, and they help us do what we do. So can we have another cheer for Continental Tires as well, ladies and gents? They are very good supporters of ours, and they really help us get out and about and to come and enjoy nights like this. And the Six Nations is almost upon us. Are we excited? Are we looking forward to it? You more or less? Have any of you got pulses? It's very quiet in here this evening. I know it's Monday. I know it's dry January, but we're going to try and liven things up a little bit and get stuck into what I think is going to be one of the most interesting tournaments we've had in a number of years. So there are a lot of unanswered questions. There are a lot of queries. There are new faces. There are departing heroes who've set sail for pastures new. So there is a lot up in the air ahead of the 2024 Guinness Six Nations. And we have got a stellar cast who are going to go through all the ins and outs and the runners and riders. And we're going to get them out a little bit later on. But before then, we're going to welcome out the two Pratts, because the good, the bad, and the rugby is not always about the science of the game. Often it's about the people and the characters. And we've got two of those to welcome out. So would you please give a very warm welcome to the one and only Mr. James Haskell and the Lord himself, Mr. Mike Tyndall. You're an idiot. Let go and sit down. Let go and sit down. Welcome to the Lord. Welcome to the Hask.
Hello.
This is nice, isn't it?
How good is lovely, isn't it?
Lovely.
We should be doing this on a weekly basis.
A lot of diversity in the audience again. Looks like fucking...
As on our panel tonight.
Yeah.
All the Parsons Green are in Soho again, aren't they? A lot of real diversity. Excellent.
Nice to see you. You've had another busy week in the sidebar of shame that is the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
This week you are guilty of getting a parking ticket, which is, I think, the least of your
What a
crimes.
wanker. Actually, to be honest with you, I did it on purpose because it's way cheaper than trying to pay
Well,
for
if you're
parking.
paying that photographer to follow you around, you might as well get something out of it.
No, but that's it's bad, that, isn't it? I didn't know. I didn't see it. Normally, I'm quite good at seeing them, but I didn't know. I mean, imagine I've been actually up to no good, just out with my daughter.
Just imagine, James.
Could have been doing
How
anything.
can we get to that?
Oi, don't film us, sir, eh? You working for the Daily Mail? No, you're not using crayons, so no, it's not you. Actually, if there is anyone from the newspapers here, I said this, we did a show in Bath, our final show, and I said, if you see anyone frantically writing or filming or doing anything, please, report them, because we don't want to end up in the Daily Mail. And I got the headline story, throwing my ex under the bus, said that you were a royal cuckoo. That basically had Andrew out.
In all fairness, we don't give a shit about him, right? I'm moving up some ladders, all right? So don't... He can die, all right?
I said he's like
protect me.
He's had Andrew out. He's had Harry out. He's put the king in hospital. Honestly, there's nothing worse. And they all think because he's northern, he's down to earth, he's friendly, he's fucking giving Louis a noogie, he's there high-fiving the Prince of Wales. You want to look, I wouldn't, if he handed me a drink, I'd fucking pour it on the bushes, it'd melt them, honestly. He's a bad man. He's got sights. He's gone from Wakefield to Windsor, right? He's got his sights on some serious... One day he'll be king and I'll be there, foot soldier number one. Hello, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Private Secretary, Mr. Haskell. We'll bring the whole thing down.
Hello, welcome to our Six Nations preview. I don't know why the fuck I bother. The Six Nations is upon us. And to that, you say what,
Is this
Michael?
where you shut up?
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be a fascinating tournament. I think after every World Cup, obviously there's a few people who leave. There's some new faces that come in. There's a whole new 4-year cycle to start. Obviously, this year we're going to walk into a France team, which is probably the most stable team, but then their captain, their talisman, the best player in the world is absent through the Six Nations because he's going to, rightly so for his own
An
gains.
astonishing decision, said Philippe Saint-André, the former captain and coach. Are you surprised he's done it?
I don't think you can be surprised at anything now with players. You look at what the Southern Hemisphere boys have done in terms of flipping around codes, whether it be rugby league, rugby union, Sonny Bill having a sabbatical, boxing. I think you've got to let players still have a love for whatever they're doing, and I do not blame anyone who wants to play, having a wife who went to a home Olympics and competed there, won a silver medal, and the atmosphere that was there and the love for everyone who was in Team GB. I cannot say that I don't understand why he would want to go and play for the Sevens in his own, in France with the love of all the people, coming off the back of a disappointment of a World Cup. Maybe if he'd have won a World Cup, he wouldn't have chased it, but a home World Cup. But he's obviously wants that success. He's known as the best player in the world. He wants to show that he can play both sides. So I don't think anyone can argue. Toulouse are probably happy because he plays more for Toulouse at the moment, which Ben Kayser, who's coming out later, was just saying, probably stolen his best point. Oh, well. Tough shit, Ben. You should come out here first. And I think that's what people want to do. They want to diversify. They want to try different things. Obviously we've got Luce Reed-Zammit going over to the NFL. People want to experience different things. And with rugby where it is at the moment, you can understand why people are dipping their toes elsewhere, because who knows where it'll be in 5 years? You never know.
Hold on tight in that regard. When you look back now, we've seen what you did in your boots, etc. But what are the memories of you, England, Six Nations in particular?
Look, I think for me, the Six Nations is the premier tournament in the world, just because of the rivalry, the passion, what it encapsulates across the board. Those old rivalries, I said this many times on the podcast, but a lot of the countries in the Six Nations have this really kind of nice nationalistic kind of identity. The Welsh with the Dragons, you've got the France with the Cocks. You know what I'm saying. The Italians with their kind of national anthem. You've got the Scottish with the kilts, just a passion for hating everyone. And I think for me, and Ireland, just at the moment they're incredible. Again, always around St Patrick's Day, we always used to play Ireland on St Patrick's Day. You go to the stadium, you come out your hotel, and it'd be a lovely day. There was one particular game with the Six Nations where it always sticks in my mind. And I had a bit of a mixed bag of a career, but I remember one particular time we were there in Ireland playing Grand Slam, first Grand Slam decider. 2011, we'd all got there, and all the friends and family could come out. They're often, when the rules were relaxed, depending on which coach you had, you could have your partner stay, and I had my then partner stay with me. And I was going to bed. She went, "Oh, you got a bit of dry skin." And I was like, "Oh, I've got to look my best for tomorrow because look good, play good." I'd shade myself like Gavin Henson, so I looked like a sea lion. I was like smooth as a dolphin. There was nothing on me. I was looking powerful, and I said, "Oh, a bit of moisturiser." So I took some moisturiser and I put it on out of a bottle, and I didn't really pay attention. Moisturised myself up, went to sleep, woke up, ready to go through a walk through. Went down to breakfast, got my rehydration. Went out to the bus, and I could see some of the lads like looking at me like, what, and I was thinking, well, no, I don't know what they're doing. And I got on the back of the bus, and people started poking and pointing, and members of the public were waving. I couldn't understand. And it was only when I got off and I went to the change room, took my shirt off, that I realised that she'd given me a tanning moisturiser. And that every minute that went past, I was getting more and more
ochre.
Yeah, ochre.
You were turning into Gavin Henson.
If that had been 2024, I would have been cancelled now. It would have, it was going horribly wrong. It was, honestly, it was going, it was progressing. So anyway, went for the warm-up, went back out for the game. By the time I came out, honestly, they thought it was Courtney Lawson. They were very confused. And
but then they saw a picture without your shorts on.
They saw me in the shower and they went, absolutely not. That was the only bit I didn't tan.
I'm exhausted already and we've barely started. We've done 15 minutes and none of that's usable. So should we welcome out... yet again, ladies and gents. Shall we therefore welcome out? We're going to say the favourites, and at this point, I just want to clarify the fact that this is actually according to the bookies. I mean, they are our favourites as well. We've got a number of, I say friends, but we've had to pay them all to come tonight. Let's welcome out Shane Horgan from Ireland, ladies and gents, and Ben Kayser from France. Come on, the boys. Come on, the lads. God, I'm going to cuddle as well.
Well done.
I got one of those. You're going to sit just there. You've got a microphone.
I'm stressed coming into this environment
Tell
already.
me about it. Thank God for some rugby intelligence.
Yeah. I've never been to this. I've never been to this theatre before.
It's good, isn't it?
It's really nice. I didn't know it was here. Obviously, I know the bookstore next door, but didn't know this was here.
Had a little research in there earlier, I'm sure. You're both very welcome.
Nice to be here.
You are both, according to the bookmakers, the favourites for the Six Nations this year. It is the World Cup final everyone outside of sort of, you know, obviously the neutrals would have wanted. It wasn't the one we got. Are you comfortable with favourites? Are you ready to go again? Is this kicking on from the France that we could have and should have had at the World Cup? Or is this a little bit of having to pick ourselves up and start again?
Good evening, everyone.
Thank the gods.
Straight back into it. Look, it was hard. I'm not gonna lie. It was complicated for the boys. I don't think they are over it at all. It's complicated to say what I'm gonna say after Hask just talking absolute gibberish, but. You know, the Penaud the hooker for Toulouse, said that he came back after 2 days because if he stayed at home, he would cry all day. That's how desperate they were to get back into rugby. And so he just got back at it and, playing some good games with Toulouse and just finding a different way. Antoine Dupont is taking on a different challenge. Boys are just dealing with it in a different way. I think it's going to take a long, long time before I ever get over it. It's going to take me a long time to ever get used to it. And so getting back on the horse against, what could have been, should have been, whatever, but was never meant to be the World Cup final is probably the best way to do it. On a side note, it's going to be in Marseille. That will be a bloody beautiful atmosphere. It's going to be unique, history in the making. Stade de France has been renovated for the Olympics, so they have to play all the Six Nations home games away from Paris. Fantastic. So actually, look, there's some good in it. You're going to challenge yourself to become the best. You're not going to have to wait around long to see really where we are at and how good we can be without the magic little man. So it's all happy, and then rugby will take back its place. So it's just a sport. You're just going to have to have fun, and we'll still be there and still have a few pints afterwards. So it'll still be fun.
All is good.
And it's not massively different for Ireland, actually. I think it really damaged them. The expectations were really high. You see, the guys have come back. They haven't really.
Those quarterfinals are tricky, mate.
Mike Tindall's as well, ladies and gents, if you hadn't noticed.
Yeah, it's not just one of them. But I do, I think the expectations were so high. It was incredibly disappointing. The highlight for Ireland was in the game against South Africa, and it's a joke, but Ireland are no further along than they've ever been before. So I think there was definitely the scars there. They haven't performed particularly well. Up and down. If you look at Leinster, Munster, Ulster, good performances mixed with really average performances. Same with players. A few high-profile players maybe not performing as they were. So there's definitely a hangover. But it's get back on the horse. What
a difference a year makes, isn't it? Last year they were so arrogant. It was so unbelievable. Now it's
He wasn't.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. He's one of the nice ones. But that's you say. You'll never beat us. We're so good.
But there's definitely a bit of reframing at the end. And Sexton finished, and famously he said, we didn't. We lost, but we won because the atmosphere and the journey. But they didn't. If they lost, and they lost. That's what happened, unfortunately. And that's been the story of every World Cup for Ireland. And while I still think they're a really good side, those first years after World Cups are kind of strange, and there's no real it's not linear. You can have a really good World Cup and then start in that new cycle and not be very good, or have a decent World Cup and perform. So Ireland have had, back in 2003, what we had was a decent World Cup for us, and we went straight into it and we were good. And then every World Cup since, Ireland have underperformed, I suppose, by their own standards, and had a really bad year the next year. And so while I'm incredibly excited by this game at the weekend, I think on Friday, it's all the hallmarks. It should be a classic. We could prove what kind of a final it could be. but also it could be a damn squib. You don't know.
I know that Johnny Sexton was such a key role, playing till 38, but they haven't really cemented that person to fill the shoes.
Yeah, well, what can you do when you have Johnny Sexton in your squad? You know, you say, oh, we plan for the future, but he wants to play every game. He's your best player at 10. He's, consistently performed, brilliantly. And, he drives the team, not just as a 10, but everyone else. So I think it's very hard when you've got a player like that to transition, especially if you don't have a player that comes in and just kicks the door down. So if you look at how Sexton got there, there's a real arrogance about Sexton. O'Gara had been there for years, Ireland's leading point scorer. And, I think I've said this before, Sexton thought O'Gara was shit, because that's what you needed to have the mentality. And before that...
Tell him that?
Oh, listen, there was the dog in the street knew that, and maybe he needed to know that he needed to think like that in order to take the jersey. And it was the same, I've said this to Rog, it was the same when Humphreys was there in that transitional period. And O'Gara thought Humphrey was shit. He's like, what's he doing? He's too old. Get him out of here. I'm taking over. And we haven't had anyone do that to Sexton. Sexton hasn't allowed, and maybe he didn't have quite the characters to come in and just take over. So what you've got is a little bit of a vacuum here. Now, Crowley was nowhere, 18 months ago or 2 years ago. He's super young. He's nailed down the spot for Munster, and he's going to be the starting 10, I'd imagine. Harry Byrne's never quite done it for Leinster. Ross Byrne is injured at the moment, but big doubts around him. I think Frawley is a real talent, and I think he's the highest capacity for rugby. I think he's a brilliant player, but he's had 2 bad years with injury. He hasn't nailed down his position with Leinster. So actually, if he doesn't nail down Leinster this year, and indeed Ireland, he's a guy who could miss his whole career. He could have been brilliant, could have been the main man, could be there for 10 years, or he could be nothing. Yeah. So it's very interesting, Ireland at fly half.
I mean, that's the thing. 2 caps, 9 caps and 1 cap to run the shit that's been run so smoothly for a long time. It's a big question mark, in the same way that Anton Dupont makes France tick, but then Luca hasn't lost in 9 games, I think.
But you'd like some other game other than France in Marseille, which, can you get a harder game?
A gentle loosener.
By the way, Marseille is I know that it might not translate very well, but playing France in Marseille ramps up, I think, even to another level than playing them in Stade de France. The passion that goes in Marseille. The only game that we lost, I know this is going back 20 years. Let's talk about the good old days.
Clive will win it. I got fired along with you.
Nice, you're still awake, Cass. That's the main thing.
Sorry, I did black out then.
It is a cauldron and a great place to play. Anyone who went there in the World Cup, and it is a fantastic place. So France will be hard to beat there.
What excites you most about France, and what worries you most about France?
I'll always be worried. Only a week after the World Cup elimination, did you have Fabien Galtier bollocks naked on the front page of a gossip magazine? Did you not see on a nudist beach with his?
Was he still wearing the glasses?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Did he have a little pair for that as well?
I would.
And he was still wearing the glasses.
Amazing.
Yeah, on a nudist beach, and just when everybody's thinking, oh, he must be so depressed, and the players are feeling it really hard.
That's something still left for your CV, that.
On a nudist beach? I'm not sure I got
you
the
and Fabian, that'd be fucking brilliant.
No, he was thing out, was he?
Yeah.
With his mistress?
Yeah.
Professional.
Oh, wow.
Only in France. Only in France get away. I got a mistress, hit the fucking divorce. Do you know what I mean? I'm joking.
No, it's frowned upon not to have one, to be honest.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm moving to France. Right.
Yeah.
Le good, the bad, and the rugby. That's perfect.
Look, yeah. So we will always keep it interesting, basically.
I can just see our producer putting his fucking head in his hands.
Imagine Steve Borthwick on a nudist beach with a mistress. Imagine him on Brighton, out there with a condom stuck to the side of his head because he's like a bit of toilet paper on a pebble beach. Little winter knob out with it. But imagine that. Not quite the same, is it? On a nudist beach. Fabien Galtier with the old tackle, sunburn, beautiful lady.
I'm just remembering.
You're getting the theme.
I'm just remembering the brief. When we're talking rugby, you two don't say anything. Let them speak.
I was about to say that. Rugby intellect. Fucking knobhead comes in with absolute garbage. Back to the rugby intellect, Ben.
No. But I'm happy to see Hask back. It's good. Don't worry, I've got plenty more way of bringing him back to the conversation.
The question was, what excites you?
The question was, what excites me, what also worries me, and then I will always be worried about. We can always do something, and we can always, fuck up along the way. That's just the way that we behave. But this new generation, like Tin said, is not really going to change, right? There's about 80% of the spine of the team is going to stay the same. Antoine Dupont looks like he's been here forever, but he's only 26, 27. So those boys will get there to the next World Cup. And Fabien just said it. Look, I'm aiming to get 85% of this squad to Australia. So that's good. That's consistency for once, which is something that we don't normally do. So relatively reliably, we can sort of expect the starting 15 to be what we think it will be. But there's a fair few little prospects around there that are unbelievable. There's Henry Tuilagi's son, Posolo Tuilagi, 145 kgs, an absolute monster.
145.
It would be very surprising if he was a tiny little thing, and to be honest, but he is an absolute freak of nature with great hands. Is he actually ready for international rugby? I don't know. Is he going to be your bench player that can do anything? I don't know. Emmanuel Meafou, the big animal from Toulouse, was meant to come, but he just got injured last week, so he's not going to be picked. And then yes, you're going to have to replace, the elephant in the room, Antoine Dupont. You're going to have to replace him and do well. Maxime Lucu, number 9 for Bordeaux, has been absolutely smashing it, and there's a hot little 9 that plays for Racing, Nolan Le Garec, who is really, really good. So I'm excited to see that those young guys fitted into the team that's going to be relatively experienced, because those guys will still be there. Aldrit is a fantastic captain. Julien Marchand, Movaka will still be there. Jalibert will still hang on the 10 jersey whilst Ntamak comes back. Gaël Ficou will still be there. Thomas Ramos at fullback. Damien Penaud, Biel Biarret. So they will be there. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Marseille. I'm always scared that we're going to do something fucking stupid, because it's always in the back of my mind. But the rest is just, let rugby play.
Is it more important for Ireland and France to win this tournament because they underachieved at the World Cup? That's what I'm kind of worried about that from an Ireland perspective, because if you look at it, it's a very staid squad for Ireland. There's no big surprises. It's not like let's bring in a new generation. Now Ireland can't do what maybe New Zealand and France can do and just churn massive, because we don't have those numbers. But at the same time, it is pretty conservative. And does that impact us in 4 years' time? Is Farrell thinking we got to win this to prove that we're winners?
Look, I think the pressure is on France, because we're hosting Ireland and England, the last one, because we were the host of the last World Cup. Yes, you were the number 1 team in the world, you were favorites, but we were still hosting the world. And so I think the most disappointed were going to be the host, and that's the etiquette that we're going to have for a while. Now, Six Nations, who the hell can predict what's going to happen? I have no clue. All I know is that it's absolutely forbidden to lose against England the final game in Lyon, that's for sure. That's just to give a little bit of peace of mind. And let's face it, we are better.
Oh, by the way, I had a twinge there when you said, Ireland were favourites. Can we make sure in the rest of history that Ireland are never chosen as favourites for a World Cup again? Ever.
Allergic to the
Ever.
title.
I'm not coming on the show.
You're the one picking.
Can I just ask you mentioned Damien Penaud, and I think it's 30 tries in his last 32 tests. If we are looking at box office stars, and obviously the Netflix series is out now, we're looking at who is going to carry this game forward. Is, from your opinion, as a top-class former international winger, is Penaud the best in the business right now? Would you pick Mac Hansen? Would you go with James Lowe? Or do you think Penaud is, at the moment...
Yeah, he just feels like a rock star, doesn't he? Yeah. He just feels every time he gets the ball, he's electric. It's attracted to him. That's the other thing. Really great wingers. They don't even, somehow the ball just comes to them. They're on the end of everything. The way France play, he gets lots of ball as well. Every sort of bounce of the ball seems to bounce up to hit him perfectly. So yeah, that's strike rate is ridiculous. Maybe Rocococo or someone, in that era, in their total pomp, is the only one to sort of touch it. That's like borderline ridiculous strike rate. But yeah, it's hard to see. Baya, Hansen's injured. He's out. He's going to be Ireland's main guy. Lowe has come back after not playing since the World Cup, pretty much. Maybe only 1 game, 2 games, but not in the same sort of try-scoring machine as Penaud at the moment. He's just immaculate.
Is there anyone, and we sort of touched on the 10s, I suppose, in particular for Ireland, but is there anyone outside of that who you are quite excited about seeing in an Ireland jersey? Are there people who you think should be in?
Well, I suppose the point I was making earlier, there hasn't been, we don't have that massive churn of players.
So much talent.
But I tell you who we do have, I think. I'm really excited. I would love to see Frawley get a run. I think he will at some stage. He'll get some time. It's, injury profile is likely to get some. If he does that, I think he'll make an impact. He can actually play as 12 at the as well. He's 2 first, 5/8. I don't think they will pick him at that, but he has a lot of adaptability. So he's definitely someone who could be outside of a 10. He could be on, even if he didn't make the second 10, he could play. He cover the outside backs as well. So I think he'll get some game time, and I'd like to see him run the game. I'd like to see people watch him run the game for Ireland, because he's got so many traits that are like Sexton. It's incredible. He's a brilliant kicking game as well. Takes the ball to the line and beautiful moves the ball across his body in the same sort of way as Sexton does. So I'd like to see him get game time. The other big one is Joe McCarthy. So he's Leinster's second row. So it came from nowhere almost to get time in the World Cup. Scored at the World Cup and is now sort of the kind of the bright young thing for Ireland. And I think he'll get game time. Talk on the street is that he'll start against France. Wow. That is a tough way to start your welcome to the Six Nations. He's able for it. I think Ireland are looking for a bit more physicality in the second row, so I can see him delivering that. He's a big, strong unit. Ireland, a steady team. He's possibly one of the few areas that we'll have change and maybe an impact.
Good thing is for Ireland is they've got so much experience around whoever plays at 10. You've got Bundyaki, who is unbelievable form in the World Cup. You've got Gary Ringrose. I know you've got a few injuries. Gibson Park's already at 9, and then you've got a few injuries in the back 3, but still you've got Jordan Lamo coming back, who was on fire a bit ago and then just sort of disappeared because of how good the likes of Mac Hansen were. So I think if it's the right time to blood, whether it is Frawley or whether it is Crowley, I think you've got the right people around them to allow them to slip into that, where they don't have to try and do everything. They can just facilitate the players around them and stick to a game plan, and they still should be able to get through that and then play their way in.
Can I just get a very quick? Andy Farrell, obviously Lions, he's done the photo call. Everyone's excited about him and it. Is that in any way a distraction, or is that just on hold until December when the November or the autumn series is done?
I don't know. It's kind of a tough one, isn't it? Again, to the point I made earlier, I think he'll really be focused on winning as well, not just for his own position and Ireland's position, but because of that hangover from the World Cup. He needs to shake Ireland out of it, because if you don't get up and running and doing well in the Six Nations, then things can go awry really quickly. Really quickly. It doesn't take too many cycles to sort of lose your way a little bit. So he'll want the guys back on track, and I think he'll be laser focused on that. So it is a little bit of a distraction, but I think he needs to put it out of his head. It's brilliant. It's brilliant for the Irish lads. You think he's going to go fairly deep. It's always the case, isn't it? No matter what country the Lions coach is from, they generally go deep on that because they're working from a similar game plan. So that'll be in the back of everyone's mind as well. But they need to keep the show on the road until then.
I want to ask you about the emotional bounce back, because 2015 wasn't anyone's finest hour.
Yeah, 2011, excellent.
Yeah.
2019, I retired, so never mind. That's my World Cups.
But you obviously had a change of coach, which is a huge sort of changing of the guard, so to speak. Ireland and France are both under similar management. But what do you remember from 2016 when you came back from the absolute despair of a home World Cup and picked up a Grand Slam?
I mean, I think it just shows that actually you can have the existing talent within the squad. It's just how you utilise it and that reinvigoration, where you put your energy. Almost, Eddie came in, and I've talked about it a number of times, but kind of had that kind of mob mentality, us against the world. I'm really interested about these. About Ireland and France, purely because I think, in my personal opinion, that was Ireland's moment in time to do it. All the things were in place. They had the players, and I wonder now if they don't do well in this next Six Nations, what Shane was saying with Andy Farrell, because will he stay on? Would he keep him on? Or would he want to keep doing it when he's lost Sexton, he's lost his other players? Peter O'Mahony's captain, thoroughly deserved, amazing player. How long will he last? Will he go to the next World Cup? I'm not sure he will. Will we have these opportunities of other players coming in? With France, I thought maybe France of old might have, and I don't think it's unfair to say, might have disbanded after the World Cup. You might have changed coaches. There could have been some infighting. The fact they've stayed together just shows just how far this French team's come. So I think it is really interesting that if both these outfits need to kick on and get some progress, because otherwise the shine does start to come off it, and whether they're actually going to be able to keep it together. I think with my thing coming into the Six Nations, Eddie was so good at kind of motivating us and putting us to play a style that suited us, you know. And which Tins always says, you know, after 2019 World Cup, Eddie was always constantly playing that final over and over again for the following 2 years and tried to almost overthink things and change things that had worked well.
Everything was about being the boss.
Yeah, and I think when in 2016 he came in and went, listen, what is English rugby about? You know, what suits the players in this squad? And I think both these teams, ironically for France and Ireland, they're down to fine margins. On any other day, they both win those games. They're both into the mix, which is unheard of. I think for someone like England, where they're going to end up is a much bigger change that needs to happen because A, they lost the fans a little bit. B, they lost the sort of playing style a little bit. So I think they're not far off. And actually, unfortunately, it makes life harder for them to be successful because I don't think there's any big glaring differences. Ironically, they both lost their talismanic players, but I still think there's amazing players that can kick on.
But that could be an advantage for England.
Yeah.
Because what sometimes happens is, and Ireland, I thought, started to play a new type of style for them in the last few years. And I think they were ahead of a lot of teams in their style. At their best, they didn't always play their best rugby, but you could see what they were trying to do at their best. And teams found it very difficult to deal with that. Now, since then, teams have identified what Ireland have been doing, and other teams have caught up and, you know, surpassed or doing different things. Now, I don't see Ireland making wholesale changes in their style in these first 2 years of this cycle. So what can sometimes happen is, one, you stick with, you know, the old style, and you have got 2 years of stagnation, and then all of a sudden you're 2 years out from World Cup and said, "Oh, what do we do? Or how are the innovators?" Whereas I think with, you know, both Wales and England in particular, you've got a chance to go, well, what can we do? What's our style going to be? What's our innovation? Can we look at things totally different and play a different type of game that, you know, no one's really seen before, and certainly never seen us deliver. And, you know, it takes a while to catch up or to, you know, change the way you defend or you play in order to counteract that.
I'm going to give you both a free hit because I'm fascinated, given how much you both watch the game, on England. Farrell is off to Racing. New captain in Jamie George. They scrambled their way to third, and to be fair, did a hell of a job in getting to third, given how they approached the tournament. When you look at England now, you see what?
Oh, I see actually a very solid squad. So I still see a lot of hope by the way that Saints are playing. They play fast. They play really electric, rapid rugby. And if you manage to take that form and that dynamism and that spirit that they're bringing, you mentioned Freeman, you know, all those guys, you just need a couple of those guys to ignite the fire back in that talent, which is there. Let's face it. It has always been there, and bring a little bit of that self-confidence back. I'm scared about how good they can be. If you use that talent in the right way. But I think you also have to be brave enough also maybe to change. Yeah, you have to be brave enough not to pick on CV, but to pick on current form. And I think the last squad has proven it a little bit. Now, will they make him until the starting 15? That's a different story. Side note, I think Jamie George is a fantastic appointment. He's a top lad. He's a hell of a player, and he'll do a good job. So I see potential. Basically, I see a capacity to reignite the talent using the momentum of the Saints normally.
Shane, I agree. There's huge capacity for better performance. I don't think England had a good World Cup. I think it was a very bang average World Cup. They played South Africa, who'd had a massive emotional performance the week before, were running on empty and were actually there to be knocked out by anyone half decent, and England didn't manage to get over the line with that.
Ouch.
But the problem though is, right, the problem is, and this is a real issue for England, that they go, actually, we weren't that bad in the World Cup. We keep on doing sort of what we're doing and we'll get there. You won't. What they did was a really poor imitation. I'm definitely going to be asked back here, audience, man. They did a poor
security.
They did a poor imitation of South Africa. That's what they did, and so they beat South Africa. They delivered their best performance, and South Africa delivered a bang or average performance, and South Africa beat them. So that straight away says, don't keep mining and ploughing that furrow. What they need to do is move away from that, utilize the actual incredible players that they have, and produce a new innovative game plan that mightn't even succeed this Six Nations, but puts them on a footing to move positively forward over the next few years and onto the next World Cup. That's what they need to do. I'm not sure if they will, though.
Suddenly I'm not the biggest arsehole in the room, eh?
You are. You definitely are.
Wrong,
Yeah,
wrong.
you still are that.
Calm down.
I think we all
Fuck
got
it
a
up.
drink
Yeah,
off the
yeah.
back of Shane's downer. Before we do that, though, Felix Jones. There's a huge amount of excitement about Felix Jones. He's a double World Cup winner with the box. He's obviously got an amazing amount of intellect and intensity. And yours.
Well, this may be the change. This may be the catalyst that England need. If they utilise him, I think he'll look at things very differently. And I don't think he's just Mr. South Africa, and you'll see his influence being what South Africa do, and that sort of a play. I think he'll identify England can play a different type of play. What he will bring, I think, having being coached and play with Rassie at Munster and then South Africa to win 2 World Cups, will bring like a crazy intensity and focus and massive work ethic, and will be able to sort of be I suppose a chink into the type of mentality that you need to have to get over the line. Now, as I said, the England performance and their tactics have to be very different, but he'll bring that. The other thing that he'll bring is an incredible detail to his role. I know he's the defence coach, but actually he'll have both sides of the ball. So he's a real analyst. So he will pick up the minor things on the opposition attack, but also the things on the opposition defence as well. So he'll have a huge input to that, and he'll be breaking down and providing information for individual players. And I remember Conor O'Shea, who I used to work with in Irish TV, he said just as he was finishing up and kind of looking for a job, Felix was kind of trying to start off. And listen, if you look at his career, he kind of had a very average career in Leinster, a fairly average career in Ireland with Munster as well. Played a bit for Ireland, but he wouldn't have been the guy you would have thought, Christ, he's going to be a standout, he's going to be a coach, and he's going to be a World Cup winning coach. He just wouldn't have been on the radar. But Conor did tell me a story that was insightful. He said, I think he was still playing or just transitioning out, and he sent Conor a video of breaking down a number of the players in the Harlequins team at the time, which Conor was the coach of, and he said it was straight away. It was brilliant. He said he knew he had a brilliant eye, great, very analytical, and he said he kind of wanted to give him a job there and then. Now, they were loaded at the time, but he said, like, very early on, it was no surprise that that Rassie brought him to South Africa, because he knew what he was doing straight off.
Very exciting. I think England fans will certainly see the impact, not only of Felix Jones, but Andrew Strawbridge as well, who's been a contact specialist in the game, has come over from New Zealand. Adam Walters has got more time under the belt there. So certainly lots for England fans to be optimistic about. I mentioned the fact we need a drink. I'm not sure you do, but perhaps everyone else might do. So should we call it 10 minutes? Should we 10, 15 minutes? And we'll see you back, and then we'll talk Wales and Scotland when we come back. For now, though, ladies and gents, we give an enormous round of applause to Shane, to Ben, to Tins and Hask. And we'll see you again in 15 minutes' time. Thank you very much. We're back. Ladies and gents, welcome back to The Good, the Bad, the Rugby Live. That's better. Just before we get the guys back out, I wanted to make one very quick announcement as we say welcome back to The Good, the Bad, the Rugby Live with Continental Tires, because I'm sure those of you who absolutely love your rugby will know the name Gary Street, who was the England Red Roses head coach 10 years ago, 2014, when the likes of Emily Scarrett, Nolly Waterman, Maggie Alfonsi, Katie Day-McLean, of course, who was captain, lifted the Women's Rugby World Cup out in France. And Gary, very sadly, hasn't been very well recently. He had a stroke not that long ago, which has paralysed his right side and his vocal cords, which took place during heart surgery last year. This is when the incident occurred. He's had 5 months in hospital. He has relearned how to swallow, and he has regained mobility in his paralysed limbs. And we understand that he's due to be discharged from hospital very soon indeed, which is brilliant, brilliant news. But he is now faced with a 2-year wait for speech therapy and a 4-month wait for physiotherapy, which he needs daily to keep his progress going. So his wife, Flip, his 2 young sons have set up a GoFundMe page to ask the rugby community for support in getting him the treatment that he needs to continue his rehabilitation. We're going to put the link of the GoFundMe page into the bio of this episode, but if you go to GoFundMe/Streets Ahead, you will find Gary's page. And I'd just love a quick round of applause for Gary Street, ladies and gents. A great, great man. And we're obviously sending the Street family all of our love and best wishes as they get themselves better. And actually, I just wanted to add as well that those of you who know of our gin, which is Black Eye, we have put this gin together specifically for being able to look after rugby players, coaches, male and female, at the time of need it. We are really excited. The first contribution we're going to make from the sales of Black Eye, £1.50 of every bottle, goes into looking after players and coaches and members of the rugby community they need it. Our first contribution is going to go into Gary's fund, and we hope to see him back up and running, back in the game before too long. So Gary, get well soon from all of us. Keep fighting your good fight. Let's move on to part 2 of our Six Nations preview. Let's welcome back Tins, Shane Horgan and Ben Kayser. And we're going to introduce for the first time tonight the former Scotland captain Rory Lawson and the Lions and Wales legend John Fox Davies. Come on out, gents. A little bit of Celtic brethren. But you there. Big gin and tonic for Rory. Welcome along, we'll have a hug. And the great man who is still, spot the one who's still playing, ripped and ready to rumble.
You can tell that Hask was here because it's got a doodle of a guy's head on it.
I'm amazed it's not a knob, which is his normal art of choice. Self-portraiting, as some might say. Well, welcome along, chaps. We started by asking everyone else memories of the Six Nations. You might even go 5 nations, actually. But when this time of year comes around, what does that mean to you and the Lawson household?
Well, Scotland will always be the 5 Nations champions, Al, forever.
Forever.
You know, and we will continue to live off that 25 years on, having won nothing since. But yeah, I guess you could split it easily into 3 chunks. Kind of the days growing up, listening to Papa Bill McLaren commentate on 5 and early Six Nations championships, and I'm sure many of the people here tonight will have all their favourite one-liners, whether it's Simon Gagan, there he is, he's all arms and legs like a flying octopus. or Barry John, they say down at Strady, if you catch him, you get to make a wish. Or there he is, Brian Redpath, he's as slippery as a baggie up a border burn. And for any of you non-Scots who don't know what a baggie is, it's a fish. So, but you know, I could pin one. My personal favourite one-liner of Papa's. I'm going to pin on Hask while he's not on stage in a position to respond. But another Englishman who he spoke about was Victor Obogu, and I don't know if any of you remember it, but you know, growing up, I'd go down to Hawick and go into Papa's office, and he'd have VHS videos everywhere, and you'd go and watch them, and he had Bill's best bits and 100 best tries and all that kind of stuff. And you still see it if you YouTube Bill McLaren in amongst the Guinness adverts. There's a bit whereby Victor Obogu's walking towards camera and his shorts were ripped, and he's walking towards us. She said, "There he is, Victor Obogu. Just as well, he's got a long jersey." Which Hask didn't need. But the one that I would pin to Hask would be my personal favourite, and it was a guy, Flees Visachi, who was born in the High Veld in Pretoria. But on this occasion, I'll give Hask the limelight, given that he can't take it. And he said, "There he is, James Haskell, born when meat was cheap."
Amen to that.
But yeah, so it was growing up with that, and
listen, you little Scottish prick. I got a fucking microphone. I'll see you in the car park afterwards.
Pipe down, quiet in the cheap seats, Hask. But yeah, and then look, growing up as grandson of Bill McLaren and son of a man, Alan James McGregor Lawson, who scored 2 tries for Scotland against England in 1976 in a famous victory, wasn't necessarily easiest. And dare I say it, the dad had many better days in a Scotland jersey than I did. But you know, I remember Tins's 50th cap was my first game at Twickenham. And I remember him running on a rangy first opportunity straight down my channel. Gloucester teammate, I managed to get him to the floor, had a little giggle on the deck, and back into action. And Tins blazer that evening was stretched around the shoulders, both pockets bulging with pink notes, having gone into every box to be able to get it do the rounds after another straightforward victory.
Hello, HMRC. Well,
no, they're too busy with Lawrence at the moment, so they won't leave me alone.
No one is safe on this show.
It's funny because look, it's funny with Scotland because they always know how to get your own back. So Rory, obviously a great mate of mine at Gloucester, and came to my wedding, and he bought me a wedding gift, and he got Bill McLaren used to write the greatest notes on about the game and how they were written, where they came from, everything like that. And he decided he very kindly gave me one as a wedding gift. But he happened to choose my first ever loss in an England jersey, loss of a Grand Slam game, England-Scotland in 2000, where the headline was Duncan Hodge scored every single point in every manner he could score, try, drop goal, penalty, and conversion. And the headline was slam dunked. And he thought that was the best wedding gift he could give me. The worst game of my life and the only game that's actually truly scarred me, and he thought he'd just pick at that.
It's hanging in your downstairs loo.
It is
like
in my loo, and it makes me sob every time I take a shit.
Quite right.
Which, based on having roomed with you on a few occasions, is frequent.
That's just to get away from you.
Yeah. John Fox, welcome to you. Still doing the business.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but still enjoying it, kind of. But yeah.
You are. I would be hazard a guess. You're the most successful Six Nations of our panel. How many medals have you got?
4.
Yeah, I think that does make you. That does make you the most successful of our panel. Round of applause for John Fox Davies, ladies and gents. Some pedigree. You got 4 as well, have you? All right. You've got more Grand Slams though. Yeah. Are you? Let's not get competitive. As a genuine question, are you, because you're still playing, do you look at the Six Nations now and think, I can relax and enjoy it? Is there an itch that you'd still love to be putting your jockstrap back on, or is it all gone?
I think it's, having been involved in it and played in it, you get how special it is for the fans, the players, and you just know what the players are going through, and that excitement. Like one of the best things for, a Welsh player is that bus into Cardiff on match day, going through down St Mary Street, all the fans coming out of the pubs, and you're so lucky that you've experienced it, and you're grateful for that opportunity, and you just know that the boys who are going through it, they're gonna have a great time, and then being able to go to games and get that buzz of the atmosphere, you do obviously miss it, but when you're not playing in Six Nations, you get weeks off, and you can. Like I was in Marrakesh last week, so I can't go play.
It's a tough life.
His holiday's gone from 3 a year to 7 a year.
Yeah,
Like
more time off for a current non-international.
Of your 4 medals, this is a stupid question because I know where you're going to go, but of your 4, which one is hung highest in the trophy cabinet? Or are they all equally valuable?
No, I think obviously the Grand Slams were special in 2012 and 2019. But I did love the Six Nations in 2013 where, obviously England would come into Cardiff to win a Grand Slam. And, sadly, it didn't go their way that day.
Another fucking record.
Yeah, it was just the whole day. Like, I think it was, I think as we're coming down to the Cardiff City Football Stadium, the bus stops and there's like a motivational video where like there's quotes from the English players all week, like we're going to Cardiff to win a Grand Slam. We're not afraid of the Millennium Stadium at the time, but the Principality. And you just knew there was that feeling in amongst the group. There wasn't much set in the training rooms, but we knew that something special was happening. And it was, that was a very special day for us. Just to annoy like 99% of the audience here.
Well, welcome to the team.
I'm now the most hated man in the room.
I don't know why we bother. So on to this year, and in many ways you were part of a Wales team that probably was always as much, if not more than the sum of its parts. I'm going to start with Scotland because, I've got the last 15 preview shows, and every single year we come into a Six Nations saying, is this Scotland's year? So, is this Scotland's year?
Well, Alex, I'm only 2 episodes into Netflix, so Scotland are currently 2 from 2.
You chose to stop
so
there.
There's a chance.
2023 might have been Scotland's year. I've not
Don't
caught up
keep
with it
going
yet.
from there, Rory. Don't keep watching.
Well, we've got as much chance as any other year. The rest have been played already, haven't they? So it's often our year before a ball's been kicked or a tackle's been made. But, I think when you look at it, Scotland have got France in round 2 at home and England in round 3 at home. and obviously go to Cardiff
Thought you forgot about that
this
one.
weekend. Yeah. So, and I've been down to Cardiff, both playing and commentating with massive hopes in the early rounds, and gone away with the tail between the legs. Having had a lovely time in Cardiff, but not necessarily on field or off in the stadium. But I think if Scotland could get out the blocks in round one, then you just never know. But France are such a strong side. Scotland have beaten them recently at Murrayfield, albeit I think that might have been COVID times, possibly. But who knows? I think Scotland have got the artillery on their day to challenge anybody. It just depends what sort of side turn up. If I picked up on Shaggy's comments, if Scotland had played South Africa in the World Cup on their bad day, Scotland might have won.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't to be.
I think for me, it's Gregor and the squad will be massively disappointed at the World Cup, even in a pool with the top two teams in the world rankings, to have not put in the performances to properly compete was hugely disappointing at the Rugby World Cup. So they'll be desperate to get out the blocks. Unlike a number of the other nations in the Six Nations, Scotland don't necessarily talk World Cup psychos. I think Scotland have to put their best squad out every single year in the Six Nations to really compete and roll the dice, knowing that this is the best of Scotland. And I think unlike some other teams who might go on World Cup psychos, Warren Gatland talking about this crop, he wants the team to be in their mid to late 20s when they go to Australia in 3.5 years' time. Whereas Gregor Townsend is, we want to put our best squad available to us out in the Six Nations and see where we're at. So I think Finn Russell can cast spells on many opponents. He's still partial to a mistake or two, but he's a world-renowned and world-class operator on his day who can make opposition look really stupid. And I think with firepower elsewhere, Jack Dempsey has returned playing really well for Glasgow Warriors. Duhan van der Merwe, we saw him scoring tries for fun last season. So I think they've got the artillery to be able to challenge the best teams. They need 5 great performances, though.
I'm going to come back to Finn and we'll talk some of the individuals. Where are Wales?
Clean slate. I think obviously, a huge amount of changes have gone in that squad. And even if you look at some of the injuries that, Jack Morgan missing the Six Nations, where you would have liked to have built on the performances he put in the World Cup and the standards that he set during that time. But, I think the interesting thing was when the heat of the battle comes in, when they have that team huddle, where the experience is going to be. They obviously they got George in the squad, but where when you're blowing through your ass and you're under pressure and you're 22 and you've got to defend a maul or an attacking set piece, who's going to be those leaders? And I think it allows opportunity for young boys to gain that experience and then grow. I'm hopeful we can put some good performances together, but I don't know whether you look at the other teams, they're far more settled, far more experienced, and probably playing with a lot more confidence. So this is an opportunity to gain experience, and you back the talent, but I think we're in a spot where there's been a lot of change, and I think it might have to be a bit of pain to go through before we get where we want to be.
Interesting. I was going to look at the odds. Scotland 11-1, Wales 25-1. But would you argue with any of that, or does that feel, Shane? Does that feel about right?
Yeah, I think it probably is. The other thing that sprung to mind there was, Gatland's come back in after being so successful with you guys over the years, and what I always thought he could do was he got the best out of that group of players who were actually a brilliant group of players. Like undoubtedly, you've just had a phenomenal group, and over almost his whole period. But I wonder, his task now is different. Yes, he has to get the best out of them, but he has to develop players as well. And I don't know if that's necessarily his skill set. Do you think that, is something he can do? And if he can't, how long does he last?
In all fairness, he managed to polish the turd that is Haskell into 75 caps. So, I mean, he did all right.
Like Midas.
78, you prick.
Gats has always been like a great motivator. Like I remember one of my first autumns, we were about to play New Zealand, and literally the team meeting before the game, he goes, boys, that's all he said was, boys, just think at 5:30 in the pubs in Cardiff, every man having his pint saying Wales beat the All Blacks today. Wales beat the All Blacks. I thought, oh, fuck, we're going to beat the All Blacks today. We lost by 35 points. But like he always made us feel like a foot taller, and so. But like you said, you're right. He has to develop and give boys these in training in the week the opportunity to really feel what it is to be at an international level, delivering that consistency. Like Ireland were one of the best teams of the last 3-4 years because they constantly delivered at a level on both sides of the ball and in the kicking game that there wasn't many mistakes. So that repeatability comes with more experience, like I said. So I think he has to make sure that boys are aware of what's expected and what he wants. He has to be clear from the start, and it'll be intriguing to see where they go now with the in the first game.
Which one of Scotland and Wales worries you more from a French perspective?
Look, Ireland.
Wow. There you have it. Shane, next question.
Wow.
No, but
are you in any way, shape, or form worried about Ireland?
I'm sorry, because I was actually just thinking of how much bullshit can the coaches say from time to time, trying to wind people up and to wind the players up. And it just reminded me. I'm not answering your question. Apologies.
No, that's fine.
But it just reminded me of the quarterfinal in 2015 preparation against the All Blacks, and Patrice Lagissière comes up and he's telling this whole story about how France will be so proud and everybody will cry at home because we're going to beat the All Blacks. Because look, I've found a way to score a given try against them. It's this play off a scrum. It's like Egg picks up back inside for the 7. It's going to score every time. Look, there's a gap. The following day, we lose by 66 points. And he realizes that actually the All Blacks had a yellow card, so they were missing a player in the video analysis. And that's why there was a gap the whole time. But we were adamant that we're going to get them, right? It's the one to do.
Vive la France.
So I was just thinking about that. I didn't really think about your question, but tough teams,
He meant
really
Scotland.
tough teams.
He meant Nicos.
Yeah. So looking ahead to this weekend then, what's the stat? 2002, the last time Scotland won at the Principality. Have you got what it takes? That's a run.
I was there. It was Papa's last commentary.
Oh, yes, it would have been.
Yeah, it was the final farewell alongside Jiffy, actually, and I played for the under-21s in Caerphilly or something the night before. We got an absolute pumping. My brother played for Scotland students against Wales students. I think they might have won, and then we all stayed as a family. We went down for the final commentary, stayed at the Angel Hotel on the corner there, just opposite the Millennium Stadium as it was
Quiet
then.
night.
Yeah, well, the Friday was a relatively quiet night, and then the next day we walked out the front door of the Angel Hotel, and it's, for those who don't know, it's probably one of Tins's 7 irons from the Millennium Stadium, but it took Papa about 40 minutes to take on that walk, because there were tourist buses stopping, there were people just wanting to shake his hand, and then we went into the stadium, and beforehand the cameras went to him just before the teams came out, and then the whole crowd, including the Welsh men's voice choir, sung "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow."
Wow,
80,000 people in the Millennium Stadium, not a dry eye in the house for that, and Scotland won that game, and that was the memories of that are significantly stronger than any visit to Cardiff since for a Six Nations match. But I think I was there at Parky Scarlets, and it was awful, empty stadium. I was one of the few broadcasters who were allowed in, and that was Scotland's first win in Wales since then, and then 2 years ago went down with huge hopes, and did Zander get sent off? Or anyway, yes. Scotland ended up getting pipped 25-23 or something like that, and it was another one just that you thought if there was going to be a chance, that was it. But yeah, I think Scotland go down. I think I had a look at the bookies. They're 1 point favourites for the game on Saturday, the final game of round 1, and I think that's probably about right. As Fox will be able to tell you a heck of a lot more about what it's like being in that stadium as a home player. But whatever the experience within that squad, youngsters, inexperienced, or George North, 100+ caps, you feel like you're a giant, I assume, in that red Welsh jersey when you run out at the Principality Stadium in front of a packed house on the opening weekend of the Six Nations. And you know, it's a 4:45 p.m. kickoff, so I assume that 50% of the Welsh crowd won't even remember what fucking happens, because they'll be absolutely steamboat from 11 a.m. But whatever the case, I think Scotland, if Scotland can overcome that and create these pressure moments that Foxy was talking about, those moments whereby typically you would have had, you know, Dan Biggar or Alan Wynne-Jones in the middle, rallying the troops, focusing the minds, Ken Owens, on what the job needs to be done, all of the experience in the world. There'll be a few eyes looking around, and whether it's, you know, Daft Jenkins as the new captain or somebody else within that squad, we'll wait and see. But Scotland have got to go down and ask questions. I think they're definitely capable of winning it, though.
There is something special and unique about that stadium as well, trying to win there. Now, I've got beaten in a lot of stadiums around the world, but that is a particularly difficult one to play in. There's like no... I could never get my breath in that stadium. Like, it was just... there was an atmosphere that was, I think, almost unique in world rugby. So that's what I'm blaming for never winning there.
No, it is unbelievable. I think I felt in the autumn, it was more galvanising for away teams to come in. You know, at the end of the year, you got New Zealand, Australia, looking forward to a beach, getting on holiday. But then, you know, they're playing in Cardiff, the roof's on, dry ball. Come on, boys, let's chuck a ball around. We've got a great night out in Cardiff, come in. Where then, you know, you go up to Murrayfield and it's raining, and it's like... And it just felt like, it's almost that the roof like leveled it off a bit, and it allowed boys to come and play. But no, the stadium's incredible. I think because it's quite steep and narrow on top of you. You know, I think you know, hopefully, you know, it is a sellout, but hopefully the crowd can get behind the boys, and that will galvanise them. And that inexperience will just, you know, when you play there once or twice, you just want to keep doing it. And you know, they're lucky that the coaching staff will make sure they're prepared for that big game atmosphere, and you know, they'll I'm sure they'll relish the opportunity to play in the Principality.
It's funny because we went there last year, and it was the first year going to watch England play
Cardiff,
Wales, and the atmosphere be dead, because I think it's the first time I've been in where you get to a point where the Welsh fans didn't actually believe. And that's got to be the thing, is they have to believe in this team, because that is when it becomes... I was there in 2013, as we lost that Grand Slam game, and I was sat in the stand, and I had seven Welsh flags just laid over my head as people walked out the stadium.
laid to rest.
Laid to rest. And I've been in there where we've been ahead at half time and it's silent, and then the momentum shift, I can't remember what year it was, and they came back and won, and it was just, you could feel when the crowd get into it, it becomes a whole different beast to play in. And it is an incredible stadium. I do always say it's the best stadium in the world that I've ever played in, Friday, especially a Friday night international. As Rory said, no one can speak. They've been on it all day. But you can't hear the guy who's next to you. You can't hear the calls. It's just a cauldron. And, you know, I think I do fancy Scotland to take that, but it's such fine margins because of their poor record there.
Who is going to be the star for Wales? Because if you look at the others, there are poster boys. There's Marcus Smith, obviously no Dupont this year, but plenty of others in front. Who's Ireland's poster boy right now out of interest? No Sexton.
James Lowe.
James Lowe.
There's a few of them.
Gary Ringrose.
Yeah.
Finn, obviously. Who is going to be the name up in lights for Wales? You're widening your eyes. I mean, is that something that Wales need? Is that something the Wales public needs? Because obviously Lewis Rees-Zammit heading to the States has robbed you of probably the most obvious.
Yeah, I think he was probably the obvious one. But I think, you know, Sam Costello is one. You know, he's still extremely young, but he's had the opportunity to have campaigns and, you know, work with Dan Biggar, work with Gareth Anscombe, and gain that knowledge by being around them. And I think, you know, I'm lucky enough to play with him at the Scarlets, and I think he's a great talent. And if
Would you start him?
Yeah. You just get him in there, you know, because he's played in big games. He was involved quite a bit in the World Cup, and I think, you know, if we can get players around him, you know, as long as we're not, you know, our width in our attack isn't too wide. If we got players around him, he can pick teams off. And I think, you know, I've seen him growing stature. You know, he's not the biggest, but like his confidence, he's fearless, and he's been a great team man. So I think we got to be looking at him to just really grab the bull by the horns and just make it his team. And I think if he gives that effort to say, right, this is my show, then the boys will get around it, man.
Just say theoretically you were coaching an opposition team, how would you get after him?
Oh, I don't know. I just stand off and just, allow him time to run at you. Don't charge down any of his kickings. It's just like that, easy enough.
It does feel like a tournament of tens. And, obviously Owen Farrell heading overseas means that potentially Marcus Smith is going to be given the keys to the England shirt. I'm going to ask a question which I think you'll probably disagree with, but is Finn at the moment the biggest star in the Northern Hemisphere because of how much he gives off the pitch? Do you want to clamber in on that? I mean, Dupont's probably got the X factor, but how much does he give in? Oh, I suppose actually.
No, Finn on the pitch. It's all on the pitch, no?
Well, there's quite a lot off the pitch as well. I mean, you talk, he's comparing himself to Messi in the Netflix documentary. I mean, I wouldn't say he's lacking in confidence, but Dupont wore the yellow dressing gown on the front cover of GQ. I mean, it feels like we have got a new generation of people who are willing to step into the light coming through. I've asked the question. You can all dispatch it as you like.
But I think the reason he can't, I think if you speak off the field and you can't deliver on the field, you end up looking silly. He can, all right. He makes mistakes. He throws the risky ball. But generally, over the last few years, he's just been so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's what he is like. And no matter what team you support, everyone's a kind of a Finn Russell fan, aren't they? And even there was reservations a few years ago about him. They're almost gone after what he did on the Lions, and then since then you think, Christ, I just want to see him try something every time he gets the ball, because he does.
Yeah,
Alice, it's bums on seats. I think what the game needs is people who go and express themselves on field and get the opportunity off field. I think rugby is the best team sport in the world, in my opinion. But one of the things that's held it back is that you've not been allowed the big personalities off field to be able to grow the game and give the insights into it. I think that's what the Netflix doc's trying to do, is give us some insights. Now, we're still just getting surface level, but hopefully this is just the springboard, because we need big personalities to be able to speak out and give a bit of themselves away without being exposed.
Not all big personalities. Yeah. Some of them are very happy backstage.
Yeah, some of them, but to think about, getting this, the stuff that you boys have done with Johnny May as a current player, albeit he wouldn't be allowed to do that probably as an England international. He can only do it now that he's no longer an England international. He's hung his international boots up. But how can we get insights into that? Hearing Kyle Sinclair's story, Ellis Genge, bits in there for Scotland, being able to get Finn Russell, Darcy Graham's background and challenges. I think being able to get those insights is going to grow the game that we need to be able to get bums on seats. And, Finn is box office. He's the reason that most people go and watch rugby at Murrayfield. And now you've got a young group of kids that are playing the game that are looking at Finn and thinking, I want to be able to do that. Not necessarily Carlos Spencer as it was when I was growing up, and I ended up playing alongside him at Gloucester, funnily enough. But Super Rugby, Lawson was lighting it up every single morning on the TV screen with Christine Cullen and so on. Now Finn Russell is that guy that is known around the world, but for Scottish kids coming through, he's a guy that people want to follow.
You can never also underestimate when someone who's playing at that level of rugby and looks like a bag of shit. Tiny, spindly arms, bit of a fat belly, doesn't look like an athlete in any way. The inspiration that gives everyone. Yeah,
it's true, though.
He's doing it real, isn't he?
There are people who are playing Sunday football, grassroots rugby, who go, fucking hell, I could still make this. You know what I mean?
And he doesn't even speak English, to be fair.
Yeah. He speaks too fast that anyone can understand. But look, he is unbelievable. The way he opens up, the way he's just himself. I think the ability now that everyone thinks that everything's got to be dead serious when you play on the pitch, and he can always do it with a smile and a wink. His way of getting over mistakes and not letting that affect him. And, you look at someone like Faz, who's just miserable all the time, He's northern, we understand it, we get it. It's tough up there.
Said from the bright lights of the West End,
hey,
you're
mate,
doing a proper job. Yeah.
I just married smart. Those days are dead to me. What, North? Don't know.
North.
I think that that is what you need to get the diversity of the game and to understand that, he admits that he was more from a football to start off with, but then he just loved. And he realised he wasn't Messi, and then he had to play a different sport. And I think that's that's what you need. Talking about the players that you mentioned, Andrew Porter in the documentary is outstanding. Everything he went through to understand then the emotional connections you have with your family and then the country and what it all reminds you of. I think that is the biggest thing we have to unlock with rugby is the characters behind it, because I say it all the time. It takes a very special human being to cross those white lines, and some of them are a bit more special. There's one over there than others.
It's a work experience kid at the back. We're doing that classic language barrier thing of sort of celebrating, but obviously no Dupont, no Untamak as well, who would probably be, certainly got the hair to be box office. Who steps in now? Fiku was brilliant in the Netflix doc.
Well, you mentioned
Penaud.
Yeah, Damien Penaud. Damien Penaud is the French Johnny May. He's completely cuckoo. He is he's a headless chicken that just runs around the pitch. Doesn't care about anything. I always told you the story that you always think in the team you got to be serious, you got to be dedicated, you've got to be focused on your craft. And I was part of a Clermont side who went through all tons of different finals and never won any. And in 2017, he's an 18-year-old son of Alain Penaud, who's 30 caps for France and played fly half. So comes with a little bit of reputation. You got to step up and do well. And Aurélien Rougerie, has got scars on his hands by whacking him behind the head because he was fed up with this little guy who had a big mouth, didn't listen to anything, just running around the pitch and not the most technical player ever. And in 2017, we played Toulon in the final, and after 10 minutes of a really excruciating long defense set, we finally ripped the ball out. And I'm on the floor, and I'm vice captain of the team. They got to listen to me, right? And I'm screaming, kick the fucking ball out! Just kick it out, because we want to breathe. And he catches the ball, and he steps one guy, and then he just keeps on running. He steps a second, and he runs for 50 meters, 2-on-1 with the winger, scores a 70-meter try for us. We win the game by 1 point. Basically, if he listens to me, we would have never won. So the idea is let those guys be chilled, be free, be relaxed, and he's going to inspire the Louis Biel-Biarré, the other winger, his teammate at Bordeaux now, who is just barely scratching the surface of how good he can be and what he can show at international level. Yes, you'll have Gaël Fugu, who's a fantastic guy. I don't know how long he's going to play at that level because he's hitting 30. I think he's 29, and in the backs they get older quicker, unless you're a big old tank. So no, but there is a huge almost a responsibility for this Netflix documentary to show that those guys can be themselves, can be loved, because we were there at the premiere and it was nothing about Finn Russell. It was 100% about Genji, because he got everybody laughing because he was genuine. He was playing the big angry bear, but whilst being nice and loving rugby, and that's what we want to see. So more characters, more real personalities, the better. And in France, it's going to be Damien Penaud. Check out Grégory Aldrit, who's a really funny character and a really clever bloke. And hopefully others will rise and you'll get to know them.
We went to the Netflix doc, actually, and I had a very quick chat with Seb Negri, who, again, is another who comes across really well, extraordinary story. But one of the really interesting things he said is expect Italy to go up several gears this year. I think, did you play under Gonzalo Casada, the new Italian coach? Kieran Crowley out. In comes Casada. Yeah. You played at Stad?
In Stad, 2004, 2005. It was his last season. It was my first. And I just remember a long hair Argentinian, really a pretty boy, lovely teammate. Fantastic off the tee, incredibly precise. Did not really like tackling, would pretty much do two-handed touch at everyone all the time, and had a big mouth about him. And Fabien Galtier was the coach. It was his first season, and he adored to be challenged, especially in front of everyone. and when David Scrella was starting at 10 and Gonzalo Quesada was on the bench most of the time, and he started getting a little bit pissed off, and then prepared a little strategy for a game, and then presented in front of everyone. He got a few claps and stuff, and that was the last game he ever played for Stade.
Wow.
He got benched. They hate each other. Right. So fantastic teammate, bit set of balls on him to stand up to Fabien Galtier. And he went through the ranks of the French team. He was skills coach. The 2011 crazy World Cup in New Zealand where we should have been knocked out, ended up in the final, should have won it. Lost to Tonga, ended up losing the final by 1 point with the 0 penalties from minute 55 or something like that, home side. and he was skills coach, really very active in terms of the building of the strategy. Went to Stade Francais, won the title out of nowhere in 2015 with an average team that he managed to take to a different level. So I think he will do tremendously well for Italy. Speaks fluent, he's Argentinian, but speaks fluent Italian by now very quickly. And he will bring that belief. He will take them to a different level. He will build on not the last World Cup, which was pretty crappy for Italy, but on the last Six Nations, absolutely. And he's the man for the job.
They bloody nearly beat France in round 1 last year as well. So England, beware. You've got training in the morning, and you've got a train that is waiting for you. So before you go...
Yeah.
It's waiting for him.
I'd rush rather stay here, to be honest.
Would you?
Yeah.
Wrap it up in June, and you can do this far more often. We'll head out so often.
exactly.
Who wins the Six Nations, and who are you most looking forward to watching? Pick us a star. I know you've touched on Sam Costello. It doesn't have to be from Wales, but who are you most excited about, and who wins?
I think France will win, and I really like the look of Oscar Beard. I think he's great. So, on that note, I've got to shoot.
Ladies and gents, will you please give a massive round of applause to the great John Fox. Ron, we'll see you soon. Good luck for the rest of the season. A cheer for John Fox, ladies and gents. Ooh. And back comes the village idiot. Right, I'm going to give
Downgraded in locks,
just to explain. Hello? Oh, excellent. Just to explain, Oscar Beard's actually injured, so he knows fuck all. So can't even use that. Well,
and that is the benefit of sitting next to our producer, ladies and gents, because no fucking chance you knew that.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Fox Davies. I absolutely love playing rugby. I think France will win, and I'm most excited about seeing Marcus Smith. There we are. Thanks.
Well
see you
done.
later, Foxy. See you, lads. Bye. Gotta go. Nigel Owen's here as well. Yellow card. See you, mate. Oh, I wish James Haskell's here to take over. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. Excellent. Whee. None of this boring rugby nonsense. I completed Sudoku today. It was great. I was on Tinder. Like. Actually, I downloaded the wrong thing. I was in Grindr. I was fucking flat out.
You know when you drive a car and you've got your foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time? That is what it's like trying to present a show with this clown. Right, just give everyone else a second.
Yeah, go on.
Rory.
What were you saying earlier about yeah. You'll be calling me Papa by the end of the fucking night. Give me nightmares, isn't it? Yeah. That's enough about me.
Right.
Anyway, who's going to win the Six Nations?
Get yourselves under control.
The more you laugh, the more I go. It's just stop laughing.
Yes, as we go back to Rory, who's going to win and who are you most looking forward? Rory, who's going to win and who are you most looking forward to seeing?
Look, I think France come into it as favourites. I think if they can get by Ireland in the opening round, they've got such quality, such depth. The headlines: Dupont and Antamac not playing, Jalonche out with his ACL, but they've got so much depth in that country, in that competition. Fabien Galtier, brilliant coach. I think they've got all of the artillery to be able to do it. I think they'll be challenged throughout, and I tend to agree with Foxy. I'm pointing to my left because Foxy was sat there. Now I realise there's not much that I'm going to agree with Hask on. But I'm not sure it's going to be a Grand Slam. So I think France will win it, but I'm not sure they'll go 5 games unbeaten.
Chunks out of the French. Shane?
I thought beforehand Ireland were going to win, but you've made such a compelling case for France. I think France might get beaten. I think they'll win the game against Ireland, but I think they may lose another game through the tournament. Now, whether that's enough for Ireland to get over them, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm going to stick with Ireland. And then player-wise, Capuzzo from Italy. If we're talking about Italy, I love watching him. I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, but I love watching him. Every time he's one of those players like Finn that anytime he gets a touch of the ball, he's super exciting. So him and our friend Payno as well.
I actually missed my player, didn't I? But talking about the talent in the top 14, I'm going to choose Blair Kinghorn. Who's moved from Edinburgh to Toulouse, is tearing up trees in the top 14. I think he's had to sit in the shadows of Hoggy for such a long time. But I see him grabbing headlines.
It's like Hoggy
within this.
And Hask.
That's a hell of a shadow.
Hoggy's the only one keeping Hask out the papers every day.
Him and Cipriani doing me a favour every day.
So I reckon him and look, and actually Rory Darge, I'm not sure he'll be fit for the opener. He's been named co-captain alongside Finn Russell. He's had a tough few breaks with injuries, but young back rower, incredibly combative, like proper star. From the town that I live in, North Berwick, and he's been given this co-captaincy at, I think he's only 22, 23, but my God, he is really capable. Both sides of the ball, absolute nuisance. So I think he'll break through even if he misses that opening game.
By the way, could we get a bit of appreciation for the editors of this show? By the way, like they've got a long night ahead.
It'll be released on Thursday.
Yeah. Who's going to win? Wales. Cue uproarious laughter. It's a very difficult show to piece together. Come back to you. Hask is sort of fermenting to get in again, but who wins and who are you most looking forward to?
We spent the last 2 years saying who was going to win this, win that, and in the end we both got it wrong. So I'm just looking not
Part
to be
of the fun.
No, I agree with Rory. I think France, hopefully, that's what I'm hoping, will get through most games, whilst maybe having a slip up. As long as not the last one, I'm fine with it. But they have to be careful because it's going to be tricky. I think Antoine Dupont's presence or absence will be felt because he is the talisman. It's really handy to have such a quality player next to you when you don't know what to do. You know, shift the ball to him and something's going to happen. So it's not going to be an easy cruise. There are a couple of injuries here and there, but I hope France, just by pure anger against Ireland opening game, to get rid of the ghosts, and then probably imposing their power when they need to go away to Scotland or home against Italy. Then they're gonna have to to back it up and to go to Principality against. You just don't know Foxy. You just don't know what they're going to be in 4 or 5 weeks. What they can turn around and who they will be. It's a long competition. You feel like guys, age 10 years in 4 weeks, just because they start from something, you barely mention their name, and 6 weeks later, you're like, shit, they are absolutely outstanding players who look experienced. So we'll see, and it'll finish by a beautiful game against England in Lyon to create history. So France will make it. I hope they're not going to slip up, but I think they should be the winners this year. At least that's what I'm thoroughly hoping. And the players that I'm looking forward to is the animal Posolo Tuilagi. You probably see him off the bench 10 minutes here and there, but I mean, have a look on YouTube. He is killing people, wiping the floor with something. He's 19. So I don't even know what he can do on the international stage. But I mean, if he catches somebody, he kills him. So
There's quite a few Tuilangis that do that too.
Yeah. No one has said anything England, which is interesting given that we're in the heart of London. Is there any hope for those in white, or is this another rebuilding year?
Look, I think if you go back to, I'm obviously we're going to clip up Shane and send it to Borthas to play in the changing room beforehand. And the fact that they're coming third and beating Ireland once again, who lost in a quarter-final, and the fact that they failed miserably within that. As we'll play that to them, and we'll get that'll be their own motivation. But I think I like the squad. Now he's got to let them go play.
Who lifts the trophy?
Not England. Look, I think it's very hard to take it away from France. 3 home games. Obviously, they've got to go to Scotland. So if they beat Ireland and then they can get that Scotland game, I think it's very hard to take it away from France. England go to Lyon. Clearly, he hates the fact that England might beat them in Lyon, so I'm going to obviously root for England. But I think France are hard to beat.
Yeah.
I think there's loads of good players to watch out there, though. It's easy. The backs always get everyone always picks a back. Obviously, you didn't because you're a forward and you don't know anything else. But I think Malvaca, obviously, he's going to be arguing with Marchand whether he plays. But there's Ben Earl. I think Ben Earl was unbelievable for England at the World Cup. So I look forward to seeing him. Obviously, we're going to have someone new on the wing, whether it be Frey or whether it
Emmanuel
be
Faye, Tommy Freeman.
Or Tommy Freeman or Muir.
Yeah,
we're going to have someone out there, and I think we need England. We need someone to create a spark for us, and hopefully it can come from one of those wingers.
The greatest irony is that whenever we do predictions games, Tins studies the game. I like to think I know a bit about the game. Hask just does random accumulators and ends up winning by a head, which is always incredibly frustrating. So go on. Six Nations. It's England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, Italy and France.
I didn't know the
James.
Six Nations was on until today. We got here to this show. So I still can't get Steve Borthwick naked on a nudist beach in Morecambe Bay out of my head. Oh God, rugby, hey, I bloody love it. Where to begin with all the details?
While you think, midway through Tins's answer, he turned to me and said, "You've got a bit of a tan."
Yeah. And
So that's where his head went.
No. Oh God, I fucking love it. All the running and the passing and stuff. I think France are going to win because they're good and I like the blue shirts they wear.
Right.
Player to watch. Payno. I heard that name a lot, so he must be good. And Tuolangi, yeah? 19, massive apparently. Going to do 10 minutes off the bench here and there. Heard it from a close source, close to the team.
And on that bombshell, ladies and gents, we could do this for so much longer, but unfortunately Hask's got an appointment in a bookshop around the corner. So
He wants to find out what the booze are around the corner, actually.
We will leave it there. Can I just finish by saying thank you so much to each and every one of you for coming to. We've really, really enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. It's been a lot of fun being the Good, the Bad, and the Rugby live with our good friends at Continental Tires in front of a live studio audience, and hopefully we'll do this again before too long. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Enjoy all that's to come over the course of the Six Nations. And can you finish, please, with a big round of applause? James Hask, Rory, Lawson, Shane Horgan, the great Ben Kayser, Mike Penaud, and John Fox Davies. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the rugby. Good luck to the editor, Tom Edwards, and we'll see you again very soon. Well done, the Hask. Good night, ladies and gents. Thank you very much indeed.